everyone, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to my videos. What I thought I would do is talk about my exchange year, or basically talk about the first steps you need to do if you want to do an exchange year. And the reason why I wanted to do this video was because when I decided that I wanted to do an exchange year, I think there wasn't a lot of information on the internet and I kind of had to sort everything out by myself. So that was 3 years ago. Obviously a lot has changed, so that might be different for you guys, but I'm not quite sure how much good information is out there. I hope this video will be helpful. I hope I can manage to make it very clear, because I find it really hard to organize these kinds of videos. Once you have decided that you want to do an exchange year, you have to decide when you want to do it. In Germany, you can do it in year 10 or in year 11. You can either redo the year and go to a different country and then come back and do the next year, or you can skip the year basically and go to a different country and come back as if you've never left. For example, if you said you wanted to do your exchange year in year 10 and you're leaving school after year 9, then go off to your exchange year, you could then come back and start year 10, or you could come back and start year 11. But you have to check with your school first what grades and maybe also what subjects you need to take in order to just simply carry on. So once you have decided that and you made sure that it was alright with your school, you then can choose whether you want to do your exchange year with a organization or whether you want to organize everything by yourself. When you organize an exchange year by yourself, it can definitely be a little bit more difficult, but it's definitely manageable. You just have to look into things a lot more, and the cost is not as high. An exchange year for me was 10,000 euros for 1 year to go to England with an organisation. So if you would do that on your own, you would obviously just have to pay for your flight, maybe pay the school. For me, my school didn't cost anything. And in England you have to pay for host families, I think £250 or something per month, and then depending on which country you go to, pay for your visa and so on. But that definitely will not add up to 10,000 euros. But the main thing is that you need to have kind of connections in a different country. You need to find a family you can live in, or you could stay in a boarding school. That might be easier, and then you could just apply directly to the school. That can possibly be a little bit more difficult if you don't have anyone living in that country and if you don't have any experience in that country yourself. That leads on to the next point, which is whether you want to go to boarding school or to a public school. When you go to a public school, you are often placed in a host family. If you're organizing your exchange year yourself, you not only need to find a host family if you decide to go to a public school, which is often cheaper. You not only have to find a host family, but you've also got to apply to that school. And boarding schools can often be a little bit more expensive, but if that's what you want to do, then definitely look into it. I decided to go with an organisation simply because I didn't know how to do all of those things, and at that point I didn't know that it was completely overpriced to pay 10,000 euros for an exchange year. But I could not have organised it by myself because I did not have anyone living in England. Me and my mum, we looked on the internet to find an organisation that we wanted to go with. We stuck with 2 organisations that we thought were really interesting and that looked really professional. One of them being EF and the other one being Into. With both organisations I arranged like a private meeting. I think you always have to do that when you go with like an organisation, and they help you with answer your questions, and you can apply to them like directly over doing that because it was so far away. So then my choice was either Scotland, Ireland or England, and for me that choice was really easy to make. I wanted to go to England, and nowhere else really. But the problem with England was that I could only go there if I was 16, and at that point I was 15. So that is also something you have to consider. I know that like the age requirements have lowered a little bit with some organisations, at least with Into they did, because all the students that want to do an exchange year, they all get younger. But the point is, I was only 15, so I needed to find an organisation that would allow me to go to England with only 15. Only Into let me do that, so I chose Into. But EF is also a good organisation. I know that there has been some trouble with EF though. Maybe I will leave some reports from the internet down there, because there has been like some serious issues with that organisation. But you should really look into that yourself and choose whether or not you want to go with that organisation. So I can only really talk about Into because I've actually done my exchange year with that organisation. So Into is, I think, all over Europe, so I think Switzerland, Denmark, Italy, those were just like a few examples. And in Germany, at least, they were really helpful and answered all my questions and tried to give me the best experience possible. And also on my flight there, it was really like well organized. I first flew from where I lived to Frankfurt, and all the German exchange students met up there, and then we all flew to London, and then we had like a 3-day camp thing, and we met all the exchange students that were placed all over England. And I think that camp was a really great idea to get to know other people, also because we were all in the same situation. Maybe you were placed like in the same area, so you could keep in contact with those people. By the way, I do apologize if this video is all over the place, but it's just so much that I need to get across. So by the way, I chose the southeast part of England simply because London is in the southeast, and I wanted to place somewhere around London because I didn't know any place else in England, so I wanted to go safe. And I'm still like that. I only go to places that I know a little bit, because if I end up in like a really dodgy place, then that would ruin the whole experience for me. So I always go safe and go into like an area I know. So with Into, you can choose your area. If you apply early enough, then it won't cost anything. I think you can also choose the exact school you want to go to. That's what my exchange sister did, but then it costs more, I believe. Going back to like the 3-day camp, after the 3 days of exploring London, we did a lot of sightseeing and group activities. After that, we all went on a train together, depending on which region you were placed in. And slowly all the people went off into like their region, and in the end you were left with the people that were placed like somewhere near you. That was a good way of knowing where other people near you stayed. Sorry that I've gone a bit off topic. I wanted to tell you the next things after you have decided whether you want to go with an organisation or whether you want to organise the exchange year by yourself. In both cases, you need to see whether you need to apply for a visa depending on where you live, and a visa can be like €300, and you have to make sure that you look into the visa and apply for it like a few months in advance, because it can take a really long time. Then you need to make sure that you've got a bank card, and ideally you want an international card so that they don't charge you every time you use that card. So one card that is European, I think everyone in Europe can apply for that card. To get that card, you have to go on the website geburenfrei.com, but I will leave the link down below. And it's a MasterCard, so you can only get that when you're 18. Basically, every time you pay with that card, they like charge you in advance, and then you have to transfer the money from a different account to that card. And another card that you can apply to even when you're younger is from the bank Postbank, and that's only for Germans, so I do apologise, but obviously I'm German, so I don't really know how. Maybe there is like a similar card to that in your country. So basically I can get money up to 12 times per year for free. I used to get a big amount of money each month so that I didn't get charged. So another thing you need to make sure before your exchange year is how to even finance it. And for me, I applied for BAföG, which is like a German, like it kind of is like a student loan, but you don't have to pay it back basically. And you can only do that in Germany when you are still in school. After that, you have to pay it back. So definitely look whether your country has something similar to that. And if you're German, basically your parents need to agree in putting all their details into a form and sending that off to the government, because you will only get BAföG if your parents earn under a certain amount. And in Germany, we also get money per child each month, and you can also apply for that. You should still be able to get it when you are on your exchange year. So yeah, definitely look into all of these things. I know it can be really, really painful applying for BAföG and doing these kinds of things. If you want me to do a video about these things in more detail, then let me know and I will be happy to do them for you, because most of the funds for scholarships are not being used, but that is mostly because no one really knows what scholarship there is. But do search on the internet for scholarships and maybe you will find one you can apply to, because most scholarships, they're not only for grades, but you could also do other stuff. When I applied, there was a scholarship with Into, and you had to send in like a video on why you wanted to do the exchange year and show like your creativity. The best video basically got the scholarship. So there's things like that. So you don't need the best grades to get a scholarship basically. And when you apply with like an organization, there are quite a few things you need to send in, such as your certificate. So basically in the contract it said that Into would not accept me if I had a grade 5 or worse on my certificate. So do look out for that. Maybe they want to like see your grades. And do try to be on top of the game. Do try to apply a little bit earlier, because it's a lot of things you need to organize, especially when you're organizing the trip by yourself. And I know all of that can be a little bit daunting, but get help when you need it. Like an organization can be a good way to answer your question and they will gladly help you, but some things you do need to do on your own. In this process, don't give up, just look into the things, and I hope those things that I just mentioned helped a little bit. But if you still have questions, then please do leave them in the comments. I try to answer them. If you want me to do a video about any things in specific and in more detail, I will gladly do that. So now one last part that I want to address, and that's things to consider so that you kind of know what an exchange year is like. The things I'm going to talk about now, those are just my own experience, so you might experience something different. Especially when you're 15, it can be really hard, or when you're even 14 or something. It can be a little bit more difficult doing your exchange year. Firstly, finding an organization, and then secondly, you need to pay a little bit more, and you will have like a guardian kinda, and you're not allowed to do as many things as when you're 16, because in England you're basically still a child when you're 15, and you're only like considered an adult within like the organizations with 16. So I had some trouble with that. So basically you get like a local coordinator in your local area where you live in, and she basically is supposed to look after you and meet up with you once a month. And yeah, basically I had some trouble with my local coordinator. Yeah, basically she wasn't the nicest, and she made the rule as she went. And at one point she even grounded me, which is a bit like ridiculous considering that she's not like a parent of mine, and that she couldn't really do that by contract. That I don't think that was legal to do. Yeah, and I know that she still works with that organization. I want you guys to kind of look a little bit out for that and consider whether you want to do that if you are 15, or rather wait until you're 16. I just wanted to warn you a little bit. So yeah, but you can make your mind up about that yourself. Then for me it took like about a week, like the first week being in England. It was really difficult for me to understand anything, and I was really drained and exhausted each night simply by hearing a different language. It's one thing if you learn it in like your school, and then a completely different thing if you are in that country and hear English every day. I didn't really talk much, I couldn't say much because they were speaking so fast. I didn't know what they were on about, and yeah, it was really difficult for me. But maybe if you're watching this video, your English will probably be a lot better than mine was at that point. So the first week was really draining, and you have to know that you probably will not speak as much, and you cannot really start to get to know people because you cannot really speak the language. It's a bit difficult, but everyone is really friendly. And I think it took me like 3 months to get completely used to the language. After 3 months, I think I started developing the language. Like the 3 months before that were a bit, I could not really speak the language, and in like group situations, I would always sit there, listen, but I didn't really know what the people were talking about, and if they weren't like addressing me directly, I didn't understand them, and I couldn't really say much. I think for me, it took me like 3 months to get used to the language, and then after, I think around like Christmas time, so after like 5 months or something, I started thinking in English. My English was really good at that point. When I hit like the 6-month mark, I could just really focus on expanding my vocabulary. I was basically around English the whole time. The language will develop a lot quicker if you don't speak like your own language. And for me, it was just like I was there to improve my English, and I was there to speak English, not to speak German. So that's why I didn't really do that. So it's just really something as you should consider in terms of how you want to improve your English. And another thing you should consider is that you will get homesick, most definitely. I'm not someone who gets easily homesick, and I even did. I got homesick, I think, just before Christmas, and then towards like the end. So basically when I had like a lot of drama with my local coordinator, at that point I got really like homesick. But after that I changed my host family because I had some trouble with my host family as well, and then everything was fine. When you're in like a host family, it can be a little bit difficult, for at least for me it was, because you are a part of the family, but in some ways you're not. And both host families kind of excluded me and my host sister a little bit, because you're not really a part of their family. So that can be like a bit daunting, I find. And I mean, the host families, I think they tried their best, but obviously they already are a family themselves. Well, at least I think you will never be completely a part of the family, as horrible as that sounds, and I think a lot of people would be okay with that. But for me, it was just a bit disappointing. So yeah, that's like another thing you should consider if you want to stay with like a host family, or if you want to go, for example, to a boarding school. Now afterwards, I know that I probably should have gone to like a boarding school. But yeah, I'm not shaming my experience in any way. I mean, I enjoyed it for time lasting, and I really enjoyed my exchange year. It was so fun, and especially like I had one host sister in the first family. She was from Denmark, and we grew really close. I think with your host siblings, you grow really close. And then I had like in my second host family, I had another host sister from Austria, and we also grew really close, because when you are in the same situation and basically see each other every day and be around each other like sisters would, then you grow really close. So yeah, and also the people in my school, they were really, really lovely, and I've made some relationships that will last for like a lifetime. I don't know, the bonds that I made were just really strong. The people were really, really lovely and really welcoming. So overall, I had a really good experience, and I would definitely recommend anyone to do an exchange year. You will not only like improve your English by so much, but you will also have new experiences, get to know a different culture, get to know like a different part of the world. And I think you will meet a lot of people that are likewise like you, and you will open up your mind a lot more. You will develop with like the experience, and when you come back you will feel so different compared to like all the other people, because you have just made this experience that you can look back on for your life. Some things also have definitely been a little bit hard, like coming back, but in my opinion the good outweighs the bad. And yeah, I would definitely recommend anyone to do an exchange year. It was like one of the best experiences in my life, and I would definitely do it again. On that note, I think I should finish the video. As I said before, if you want me to do any more videos about this topic and anything in specific, I could also talk about my experience in a little bit more depth. I've just touched on things right now. Then let me know and I will be really happy to do that video for you. I hope you enjoyed this video and I wish you all the best and goodbye.